Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday the 9th of April. My name's Gordon Ross and this is Indycar news that's not given to you by the BBC or STV. This morning's show, I'm looking at the way the British state media is currently steering the narrative concerning Scotland's constitutional future. You'll have noticed in today's press that there was a panel-based poll conducted for I think I'm right in saying it was the Sunday Times. I'll check that, but I'm pretty sure it was the Times in Scotland, the Scottish edition. And it was conducted to ask people when or if they thought there should be another referendum. The question carefully framed so that they're asking people who are weary of all of these arguments, who are weary of referendums in general, if they want another one. Now, the obvious answer to that is they probably don't, because most people are fed up with voting in referendums. There's been two in recent memory, the one for Scottish independence and the most recent one for leaving the European Union. And we both know that both referendums, in terms of Scottish voters, were a huge disaster. We didn't get our independence in the first one, and in the second one we have been forced out of the European Union by our by a neighbouring country in the UK. So the idea of another referendum to most Scots is not an appealing one, for the obvious reason that they have bad memories of what happened in the last two. So how you frame the question in a survey or in a panel-based poll dictates what people will say in their answers. It also doesn't say in this particular poll whether they interviewed 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds or younger people under the age of 25. It doesn't say anything about that actually in the article. But I'd be willing to bet you, because it is a British, UK-based paper with a very British outlook, that the panel-based poll will have been conducted with a selected group of individuals who they will hand-pick, because they will say the kinds of things that they want us to hear. So the question is, do we want another referendum or not? But if I said to you in a poll, do you think Scotland should leave the UK to avoid the damage of Brexit? Now that's a different question altogether. I could frame that question in a poll so that people would say yes because they don't want the damage that Brexit is going to cause. I could say, do you want Scotland to leave the UK just before Brexit to protect the Scottish Parliament from being taken over by David Mundell and having its powers transferred? I could frame that question in any way I wanted to. And this is the point about these panel-based polls and surveys. In fact, any polls and surveys produced by the British state media are deliberately designed to get a no vote out of you, to get you to think, oh God, I can't be bothered with that. And so it doesn't surprise me that this panel-based poll today shows absolutely no movement, because every single UK poll about independence always shows absolutely no improvement in the yes vote side. But remember, this poll today was not about independence. It was about whether there should be a referendum about independence. We haven't even got anywhere near to the subject of independence. They don't want us getting near it. They want us to argue about whether we should vote on it first of all, not on whether we should be independent or not. We need to refocus the narrative ourselves onto the subject of, should we sit still and allow ourselves to have our economy destroyed by a referendum in which England voted to leave the European Union and Scotland voted to stay, and yet we are being basically overridden by the 55 million people in England who voted to leave. We have to go along with them. No, we don't need to go along with them. And if I framed the question in that way and said to you, no matter what your political opinion in Scotland, do you want to have your country damaged by a needless exit from the European Union without any plan for the future, or would you prefer to leave the UK and make your own deal with Europe? What would you say? Well, of course you would say you want to make your own deal with Europe, because you don't want your job going down the toilet. You don't want your business losing 10 or 20 or 30% of its export orders. The point is, you have to ask the right question. And at the moment, the pro-UK British nationalist side is asking a question which they want you to answer no. In other words, they want you to say, no, I can't be bothered with another referendum. It's too much hassle. I don't like it. It's a lot of stramash. Everybody's at each other's throats. No, we don't want another one of those. Let's get Brexit over with. That's bad enough. They want you to be weary. They want you to be fed up. They want to play on your sense of exhaustion with the whole political process. But the point is that behind the scenes, what you're not seeing in the news this week, well, we're all watching the script calls getting poisoned with a poison which doesn't work, with a lethal poison which isn't lethal, which may or may not have come from Russia, but they're not really sure. While we're all watching this circus, this three-ring circus in one corner of the media, the British state is doing something completely different over in Europe. They're trying to negotiate a deal which will affect every single one of us, and we're being forced to look the other way while this is happening. The way the media is manipulating things at the moment, we cannot be sure what the UK is planning to do with Brexit, but what we can be certain of is that it's not going to be good for Scotland. And if you frame the question that you ask in your poll in a manner which says, do you want to be dragged out in a needless, unplanned Brexit against your will, or would you prefer to leave the UK Union and do your own deal with Europe? You can frame it that way. And people will probably say, yes, we would love to be able to do our own deal with Europe. We'd love to be able to get away from Brexit. And that is the way that you could frame a question in a panel-based poll and get the kind of vote that we want to hear. So we need to think about how we counter this narrative of, do you want a referendum? No. Are you in the mood for a referendum? No. We don't want another referendum. This talk of referendums is not helping us. We need to focus on what we need to do to avoid the damage of Brexit, because we know it's coming. They're hiding it from us. They're kicking the can down the street. They want us to wait another 12 months or whatever it is until they finally make their bloody minds up about what the Brexit deal is going to be. All we know at the moment is that the British government has sold out all of the fishing quotas and the fishing grounds for 2 years back to Europe. The fishermen who put their faith in the Tories to win them their fishing grounds back have had them completely thrown under the bus. They've given them back to the European Union for the next 2 years. So what should we do? Should we hold our own poll? I think we should. I think we should commission our own polls to counteract the narrative that the UK media is producing. These polls are designed to dispirit you, to make you feel as if you're losing, to make you think that nobody wants independence, to make you think that everybody is fed up hearing about referendums. The fact is, everybody's fed up hearing the Tories going on about referendums, not the fact that we're actually fed up with them per se. We're just fed up hearing about it from the Tories. So how about we frame our own question and have our own poll of everybody in Scotland? Just have a big poll of everyone. We could fund it, we could crowdfund it, it could be the biggest survey of the Scottish people done. But we need to ask the right question. The question has to be, which of these two futures would you prefer? Uncontrolled Brexit, Tories running Scotland forever, and the Scottish Parliament either abolished or disempowered, or freedom to make a deal with Europe yourself, your entire Parliament fully empowered, with all of the levers of power, with every taxation power that they need, full control over all of our natural resources, including oil, gas and renewables, so that we can fund our own currency. We can present this as an either-or vote, just the same way that the Unionists do. But we need to be specific, and we need to make sure, pardon me, that we frame the question. We're allowing the other side to determine what the narrative is, and we have to stop doing that. We are the media, remember? This is social media. It's far bigger than the regular media. It's far bigger. It involves more people. We can say what we like. We can decide what we like. So let's get our heads together. We'll organise our own poll, a big one. We can do it in the National, we can run it in the Sunday Herald, we can run it anywhere we like. But we must frame the question. We must ask the question in such a way that people are forced to make a choice between two things. The evil of the Tories and their stupid Brexit plans which are going to destroy our industries, or a better future where we have full control over everything. We make the decisions about how we trade with Europe. I'm not saying we should go straight back into Europe. We will end up Brexited, by the way, anyway, no matter what we do here, because it's getting so late we can't turn Brexit back. But the point is, if we are going to Brexit, would you rather have control of what the deal is with Europe, or would you prefer to let the Tories throw it all away and make sure that they're okay while we lose all our export business because of it? These are the questions, and we have to think how to frame this question. So let's have our own poll. Let's stop sitting around and accepting the rubbish that's coming out of the UK media. Why should they drive the narrative? Why do we let them drive the narrative? It's our own fault for lying back and letting them walk all over us and tell us what reality is. We know what reality is. We can see it every single day with our own eyes. We see the poverty, we see children starving, we see food banks, we see disabled, elderly people getting cut, getting sanctioned, people committing suicide. We see the Tories getting wealthy and sitting there aloof in London, quite happy in the knowledge that they don't give a toss whether anybody in Scotland lives or dies. It makes no difference to them whatsoever. They don't care if our industries go down the toilet. As long as their nest is fully lined and their pockets are lined, they're quite happy to let the entire country go down the toilet. And they're quite happy for us to be fighting among ourselves over it, while they sit in London, in Westminster, in luxury, paid for by you and me, the taxpayer, with their expense accounts, with their flats, with their paid for transportation, with their paid for bills, their heating allowances, all paid by us. These millionaires who don't need the money are living off us, leeching off us in London, and we let them do it. And we're now letting them tell us that we don't want a referendum. These things have got to stop. We have to change our attitude and stop being supine, stop lying down and letting the UK walk all over us, and for God's sake, stop letting the UK media decide what the question should be. It's not for the UK media to decide whether we have a referendum or what the question is. It's for us to decide what the question is. And we need to wake up and, as I say, stop sitting there taking this crap as though we don't have an option. Of course we have an option. I mean, I'm talking to you today on the most powerful piece of media equipment in Scotland today. It's called a smartphone. And this smartphone that I'm talking through at the moment is the most powerful tool we have for organising ourselves. Nicola Sturgeon is in a bit of a corner at the moment. She's waiting for us to rally and say, now we must go for independence. She's waiting for enough of us to stand up and say, let's go and do it. Let's stop sitting around and letting the British state drive our country to ruin. It's time we moved, and it's time we used these little phones that we are looking at each other through and spread the word out there. Let's get a poll. Let's fund it. For Christ's sake, the SNP has got 120,000 members. Surely they can afford to run a poll themselves. And surely they should not be scared to run that poll. I mean, are the SNP actually sitting there thinking, yes, these panel-based polls are absolutely truthful and everything is actually as they present it? We're really not doing very well, and we should just not have any kind of campaign. We should just not hold the referendum until panel base or the Sunday Times tell us that there's enough support. I mean, what? We're letting the UK decide when there's enough support. Are we mad that we believe the UK media before we believe ourselves? It's time to change what we do, and it's time to stop sitting around behind our computers. I know a lot of people go out and march, and that's great, but we need to get a poll done. We need to find out what people will vote yes to. We need to have a poll about what the question should be, so that we get the answer that we want. Do we want to dissolve the union? Do we want to end the union? Do we want to withdraw from the UK? Why do we use the word independence? We're already an independent country. We've always been an independent country. We're not dependent on England for anything. We make our own money. We have our own oil, we have our own agriculture, we have our own exports, we have all our own businesses, we have our own laws, our own cash, our own education system. We're fully independent. The only thing that we depend on England for is giving us back the tax money that we have actually paid to ourselves. And they skim a bit off the top. That's the bit that is dependent on somebody else. But we're not dependent on England for our survival. We're dependent on their charity to give us back what is actually already ours. And this is what's wrong with Britain. This is why we have to leave it. Scotland is a country, not a region. It's not been subsumed, it's not been absorbed, it's not been extinguished. It's still here, it's still a country. And the people of Scotland are still sovereign according to the documents which founded this nation. That has never changed. No matter how many other laws are written, the fundamental principles that founded Scotland are contained in the Declaration of Arbroath, which guarantees that the Scottish people are sovereign and have the right to remove any rulers who they deem are not doing the job for Scotland. And that's precisely what this question has to be about. Are the Tories, are the English government doing the job of governing Scotland properly or not? That's what the question really is. Because if you don't think they're doing the job right, then you have to say so. You have to say so. Westminster is not governing Scotland to our liking. We want it to stop, and we will vote to have it ended. That's all we have to say, and it's time we stopped mucking about and letting the BBC, ITV, and all the broadsheets and the tabloids from England decide for us what we vote on. Why do we let them do it? We can't do it anymore. Time has come to stand up and say, no, we decide what the question is, we'll work out what it is, and we'll have a poll on it. If we could get 2 million people in this poll to say, yes, we want to withdraw from the UK to save our industries from the damage caused by Brexit. You know, that's a kind of question we could pose. And if we got 2 million people to say, yes, I agree, that's what we should do, that's a mandate. That is a vote to say we want to leave the UK Union. We want to go it alone. We want our power back. We want our taxes back. We want all of our powers back. And we'll make the decisions from now on. I have to go and do some work now. I had a good long rant today. I've been feeling this coming on for a long time, and I know a lot of other people are champing at the bit. So please, SNP, if you're watching me today, think about what I've been saying today. Don't let the mainstream media drive the narrative about what we decide is our future. We have let the mainstream media into the driving seat of the independence campaign. We've let them drive it in any direction they want, taking it down blind alleys so people will vote no. We have to stop doing that. It's time we took control of our media and took control of the narrative. And that's what this broadcast is about. We take control of the narrative. We have this little screen, and every single person in Scotland has got one of these virtually. And every single one of us could vote using this phone in a blockchain system right now that's nothing to do with the UK. It's not a referendum. It could be a ballot on the phone, verified by blockchain. We could do it right now. We could fund it, we could crowdfund it, and we could have a yes vote within a couple of months without asking anybody's permission. And we could find out how people really feel. And by doing that, we will accurately gauge the population's appetite for independence. Not their appetite for a referendum. We don't need to have a referendum. We just need to take a poll of Scottish voters now and ask them which option they prefer. Tories and Brexit, or Scotland running its own affairs and no Brexit. Because that's the choice that we face. We need to present it in those terms. If we do it as a blockchain vote and we use smartphones as the means of voting, millions of people could vote within hours. There's no polling stations needed, and the blockchain system can be verified independently by anybody all over the world. It can be checked. There's no reason why we can't do this, but we must take control of it. I've been talking about blockchain for months. SNP's done nothing about it as far as I know. I haven't heard anything from them about whether they would even think about using this. They're so worried they might upset the Electoral Commission in England. The Electoral Commission in England doesn't decide independence. It's just an enabling agency which helps to govern how things are voted on using ballot papers and pencils, for Christ's sake. We can do this ourselves in the most modern system available, which is the 4G network, smartphones and blockchain. If we do that, we'll know. At the moment, we're sitting around letting other people decide things for us. Let's stop. I'm off. I've rambled on long enough today. Contact me in the usual way after the show if you have any opinions about this. But really, it is high time we stop letting other people decide what questions we are allowed to say yes or no to. Bye for now.